Hi, I'm Cailey, librarian here at Mentor Public Library.
And I'm Meg, also a librarian here at Mentor, and welcome to this week's edition of All Booked Up with Cailey and Meg, where each week we give you different recommendations related to a specific theme. This week's theme, we're going to be looking at teen nonfiction. So these are true stories, either informational or about a person's life, but they're specifically targeted toward teenagers, high schoolers, young adults, but we think adults can enjoy these books as well. So there's a wide range of topics and subjects, just like any adult nonfiction section at the library, but we're specifically going to be looking at teen ones today.
Yes, and man, do we have a variety for you today.
Yes,
and all the books that we have today are available here in the library or online through Hoopla or Libby by Overdrive, all free with your library card.
Good. All right, Cailey, so what's your first book today?
So I am starting with a memoir that is in teen nonfiction, and this is called How Dare the Sun Rise by Sandra Uwiringiyimana. And this book is just super powerful. Sandra was just 10 years old at the time of the Gatumba massacre. And at this young age, she unfortunately saw friends and family murdered just because of who they were. Sandra is from the Democratic Republic of Congo and is a member of the Banyamulenge tribe, ethnic minority, and they were very much discriminated against by the Congolese government. She and her family were forced into a refugee camp after the Second Congo War, and that is where they were at the time of this massacre. So the book kind of opens up with that horrific incident because that really led to the rest of her story. Following this horrific incident, Sandra and her family were refugees for a long time, eventually making their way here to the United States. But here she faced new challenges. She had to learn this new language and help translate that language for the adults in her life, which is difficult as well. She was forced into some new school situations, went into high school and college in the US, and just in complete fish out of water a lot. And this helped her face new discrimination based on the color of her skin, which was not really the issue back in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but more here in the United States. It can be very divisive. Once she got into her later teen years and early college, she started to struggle with some PTSD because of the massacre. And this led to her becoming involved in human rights activism. She got to speak before the United Nations, she met with President Obama, and she continues to be a voice fighting for human rights, not just in the Congo, but throughout the world. So I know this book sounds like really quite a downer, and at times it really can be, but it is very inspirational as well. It's written in the first person, so it's really easy to kind of get into Sandra's head throughout this, and she's been through quite a bit in her life, and I've only touched on a little bit of it here, but ultimately her story is really hopeful. It's written directly for teens and is easily read by adults though, but it really opens your eyes to a lot of the different issues in the world and some smaller things that you can do to help people throughout the world. She's really an inspiration.
Wow, that sounds great. And what I love about what this book is like a lot of teen nonfiction books are written by fairly young people. So she's still pretty young herself. It kind of reminds me of like I Am Malala that came out a while ago. Like these are young people who have very recently gone through these experiences. So I think that's also really helpful, for teens today to read about people like them in their own time. So it's really cool. So my next book is maybe a complete 180. It's called Makeup is Not Just Magic, a manga guide to cosmetics and skincare by Ikumi Rotta. And anyone who might not be familiar with the term manga, manga is a particular form of comic book that originated in Japan. It has a very distinctive art style. It's usually in black and white, so there's usually not as much color, but a very distinctive art style that once you get familiar with it, it's a lot of fun to read. So it's actually an informational book that tells guides them through all the different types of makeups, how to apply them, different methods, but it's really presented in a super fun way. The actual author, Ikumi, kind of puts herself as a character, as this, because the author, actually, I didn't mention this, she actually was a beauty consultant for many years, and then she became a comic book artist, so she kind of has a cool history, but her little character is in there, you know, and she's got her little scientist jacket, makes her look like she's all ready to help people. There's also a little character, there's like this mini story about this girl who gets this package in the mail full of cosmetics, and she's so excited to get it, but then, you know, she's totally helpless on how to use it. So she's like, who's gonna save me? So it's cute. Like the author's like this superhero with makeup, like I'm here to save the day and help you learn. So it's really helpful, but it's also really funny and quirky and just a fun way to learn something new. If you enjoy those YouTube tutorials on how to use makeup, but maybe you're getting, you know, you just want something different, a different way to learn how to use makeup, this is really fun. And it's also a good introduction into the manga art form. If you've always heard that and weren't really sure what it was about, it's a good introduction because manga, you know, if anyone's heard, there's like, you have to read from right to left as opposed from left to right. Did I get that right?
Yes,
but
you read from right to left. Yeah.
Right.
I haven't read a lot myself, but it does take some adjusting.
Yeah, so this is a nice beginner for that because it's just one volume, short, quick, and easy to read, but it's fun.
I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I love to play with makeup, but I don't think I'm particularly good at it, so maybe I should look.
Oh, me neither. So I need to get this book. So yeah.
My next book is again gonna bring us all down again. It's called The Borden Murders by Sarah Miller, and this is about Lizzie Borden.
Ooh.
So this is Lizzie Borden is a name that almost everybody knows, and you might even know the song about her. But this book, written directly for teens by author Sarah Miller, dives really deep into this case, from the discovery of the murdered Mr. and Mrs. Borden, to the investigation, to Lizzie Borden's trial, and the sensational news coverage that occurred nationwide. The book is a really quick kind of true crime read that is great for teens or adults interested in like the unsolved mysteries that just came out on Netflix, or some of those true crime documentaries that are very popular. It's also just, it's like a fascinating, frustrating look at police work in the 19th century, because you will find yourself so frustrated at the bungling of evidence and the lack of the modern tactics that, you know, today with the abundance of crime shows we're so used to. And it's going to help sort of fuel the question of what really happened here. What's interesting too is to see kind of how the police work and investigation played out in a time when they didn't have all these like fancy tools, where they very much relied on what they could see with the naked eye, what they could observe, and the interviews and things that they did. And the author includes a ton of firsthand information from the police department, from the trials, from all of the newspapers. The newspapers very much amped this up, but she also raises questions of perhaps some other suspects in the case, and sort of brings that question of, you know, should it really have come down right to Lizzie? And then details, you know, why Lizzie was the main subject in the end. But at the end of the book, the reader kind of has to decide what they think, if Lizzie Borden was guilty or not. I mean, it's 130 years later and the public is still undecided, but she was found not guilty back then.
Wow, that is so fascinating. And those kind of books are always like a page turner. So that sounds great. I actually don't know the song. What's the song?
It's the Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks when she
Oh, yeah.
saw what she had done, gave her father 41.
Very good. Okay, yeah. It's bringing
Yeah.
that to me now. Yeah. But speaking of news, that was actually interesting. That story is so fascinating with how it related to the case and the news. My story is, my next book is also kind of about news, both in the past and today. It's called True or False, a CIA Analyst Guide to Spotting Fake News by Cindy L. Otis. So she used to work for the CIA, and now she's using her skills to kind of help us learn how to decipher the news. She actually describes our current news like landscape as being basically standing under a shower head of information all day, every day. And I don't know about you, but in our job, certainly as librarians, we have to look at information all the time. And sometimes it looks reputable, and sometimes, as you know, there's stuff that's definitely not as authentic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I think not just for us, but I think everybody feels that way. No matter where they get the news, you can feel bombarded with all the information you receive and whether it's true or not. So this book starts out looking actually at the past, so not today, and she goes through different things throughout history where propaganda was a prominent part in society and the dissemination of news. So one infamous example is in ancient Egypt, the ruler Ramses II. He lost this battle in a city called Kadesh, and it was this like embarrassing military defeat. But what he did was all throughout Egypt on the walls, he had these hieroglyphs like monumenting his victory. So it was basically all these monuments to a big lie. And I think it lasted for quite a while where people believed that he won when he actually lost. So there's other scenarios like that going all through history that are really fascinating and includes a lot of pictures as well, to show how news was spread and misspread, I guess, back in the day. And then the second half is really practical as well. She talks about how to spot fake news, how to decipher clickbait if something's like an ad, and really all the tips that she gives, and some of them are really cool because they kind of highlight her CIA background, like how to look at a photo and can tell if something's like been altered or something. But really all of it is undergirded by her premise that really the most important thing is you need to, when you're looking at news, think critically about what you're looking at. Don't just open your mouth like a little baby bird and take it in immediately. Think about what you're reading. So I think that's really helpful for high schoolers. It was described as a must read for high schoolers, and I agree. But I think adults, maybe even more, need to read this book as well.
Absolutely. And I think currently, especially going into a divisive election and just all of the news coverage related to that, it's really hard to find out what is real and what is propaganda or, pushing from one angle. It's just hard to decipher sometimes. And I think that that's super important for teens and adults to learn that not everything we see on the internet is, can be taken as face value. I mean, it's definitely confusing too when you see something that's been shared and liked 1 million times on Facebook. But I like the idea of making sure that you're just, thinking critically about the news sources and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, that's a brand new one, so that's a good one. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. I hope you got some good ideas for maybe reading this fall. Speaking of fall, we're doing something really fun next time. We just were talking, Cailey and I, about how this season is, getting us in the mood to try new recipes and cooking and baking, all sorts of ideas. So we're going to actually be looking at cookbooks next time and hopefully give you some fresh ideas for some fun things you can try out this fall.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. Yes, and so hopefully you found some books here today that you'll enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading.
Mm-hmm.